we humans exhibit rather unique pro-social behavior. And although we sort of take this for granted on a daily basis, the question is how this could arise, right? So more technically speaking, the question or the problem is how could costly cooperation evolve, right? So that is cooperative behavior that comes with a cost to the individual, right? And this is an evolutionary puzzle, right? It's very unclear how this could arise evolutionarily. And so if we want an evolutionary answer to this, or an evolutionary solution to this problem, we somehow need to figure out how the individual exhibiting this costly behavior can at least ultimately benefit from this behavior, right? And so this opens up a whole space of possibilities, from things like coercion of cooperation through punishment, or to look at motivation such as reputation gain. One early attempt to solve this problem started with the observation that a lot of human behavior seems to be adapted to benefit the group, for group functioning. Right? We contribute to public goods in many ways, but this has long fallen out of favor because it's inconsistent with methodological individualism of evolutionary biology. That is that we try to explain the evolution of behaviors by looking at how they could be beneficial to the individual. And one approach that is then consistent with evolutionary theory is called kin selection, or inclusive fitness. The inclusive fitness of an individual is its ability to transmit its genes into the next generation, including its genes that are shared with close relatives. And so you can explain cooperation amongst close relatives simply because they share the same genes to various degrees. And this is quite a powerful explanation of cooperation, and explains a lot of insect behavior, for instance, of eusocial insects such as ants or bees. The problem with this account is that it cannot explain cooperation amongst non-kin, right? And so one attempt to do this, to explain then cooperation amongst non-kin, is the reciprocity account. The idea being, although one cooperative behavior could be costly, if this would be reciprocated by other individuals, perhaps in a group, then this could be stabilized because there's ultimately a benefit to costly behavior. But the problem is that this can stabilize in very small groups, but basically breaks down in more sizable groups, because both the likelihood decreases that this behavior is reciprocated in the first place, and also the likelihood is higher that non-cooperators intrude and free ride on the cooperativeness. Now, punishment is pretty much then introduced to help the cooperator secure cooperation. So with punishment, there's a mechanism that allows cooperators to secure reciprocation, right? Or otherwise just guard against free riders who try to reap the benefit of cooperation without cooperating themselves. And this is what we're going to be concerned with chiefly here. So if you look at the literature on the role of punishment in the evolution of cooperation, what you see is a surprising homogeneity in the methodology and the types of models that are used here. And those models are based on game theory. So that is both classical game theory based on rational agents, and evolutionary game theory that models population dynamics. And although there are many different game theoretic models, one standard model that is used here is the prisoner dilemma. And the basic conclusion of the prisoner dilemma is that cooperation is not stable. So whenever an individual cooperates, another other individual might be better off not cooperating, right? And so in the long run, or with rational agents, there just is no cooperation. Not cooperating is the only stable equilibrium, the so-called Nash equilibrium. And our punishment is then traditionally introduced into those kind of models as a sort of second step in playing the prisoner's dilemma, for instance. And it's another step after playing this game, for instance, the prisoner's dilemma, where punishment can be exerted to the other individual, depending on the choice that the other individual made in playing the prisoner's dilemma. And because punishment then can be very costly, this can deter non-cooperators. And under certain conditions, then what can be shown is that punishment forces the cooperative equilibrium so that that cooperation can be stabilized.
In other models, agents only have two options: to cooperate or to defect. And in our model, we allow agents to be flexible in their contribution. This is to say, we change the binary value of contributing or not to a continuous value, integrating the quantity of the cooperation of an agent, how much they contribute. So the punishment account has two selective pressures. One is the cooperation, so we assume that cooperation is costly. And then we also have the cost of punishment, and these costs will be paid only for those agents that do not contribute at all, or very, very low. So we have a linear function of cooperation, which is equal to the costs of cooperation. And then we have the punishment, the costs of the punishment.
Our model of punishment, which we call Model 1, models two evolutionary pressures. One is costly cooperation, and the other one is punishment. Those are two types of cost functions, right? And given those costs, populations evolve in a certain direction. And in Model 1, what we see that the population evolves actually to lower levels of cooperativeness that are just above the threshold of punishment. So what Model 1 then suggests is that given only the punishment as main evolutionary pressure for cooperativeness, everyone will just do enough to not be punished.
We found in our model that if only punishment is in place and cooperation is costly, that everybody will reduce the contribution to a minimal level. So this question can be transformed in the question, what kind of cooperations can be secured when everybody is just doing enough? And these are very few cases, actually. They are slave work or mechanical factory labor or all kinds of work where you have a well-defined outcome and you can punish anyone who is not doing what they are supposed to do. And yeah, I think that most of human cooperation would not work with this minimal contribution.
It seems that many forms of cooperation that we see in modern societies requires more than punishment. And there's all types of cooperation where individual tasks cannot be sort of explicitly defined, and where this cooperation needs to have some collective problem solving capacity, or capacity to innovate and adapt in the moment. And so you see this in many different areas. I mean, a lot of cooperative endeavors might be characterized in this way. The research and development, the innovative capacity, the whole endeavor of science, perhaps not just stabilizing by punishment, and any team sports, for instance, too.
In many small-scale societies, all meat that is hunted will be shared among all members. And the question now is, why do people hunt? Because it cannot be the nutritional value, because they would get the meat anyway. So it is not that they hunt for eating meat. Would be the normal and standard and assumption. And one suggestion is that they hunt for attention and to earn reputation to be a good hunter. And people will learn about a quality that is otherwise hidden, and this quality is revealed in the hunting success. And good hunters have more children and more prestigious friends and better social status, and are also likely to begin a new family in midlife with a young woman, and also are more named as a lover. So in this society, very often they have secondary fathers. In some of the societies, they believe that a child is not produced in one act, but it needs many, and that two men can be the father of one child. And so they have the secondary fathers, and these are very often very good hunters. So we could say that that good hunting and reproduction of the genes of the good hunter is really closely related to each other.
Having argued earlier that punishment is insufficient to secure cooperation, a lot of cooperative behavior that we see in modern humans, we had to model a selective pressure on higher levels of cooperativeness. And for this, we constructed a bivariate model. So we still took the variable of cooperativeness, but we added another variable, which is skill. And then we constructed two functions, a benefit function and a cost function. So the cost function says that the costs increase the higher the cooperativeness, but the second variable, the skill, is a kind of mediator variable that says the higher the skill, the lower the increase in costs at higher cooperativeness levels. And the benefit function, we assume, simply increases, so the benefit increases the higher the cooperativeness. And we do this by assuming that there's some sort of relationship, a translation of the cooperative act into the benefits of an agent. And so given those costs and benefit functions, we again run multiple generations of a population, and then see that in that population first a skill develops, and in sufficiently skillful populations, then we see higher cooperativeness. We still want to model costly cooperation. So we still assume that the cost function increases with cooperativeness, right? So there's higher costs of more cooperative behavior. For instance, hunting a bigger animal in a more risky way, right? Those are risks associated with this behavior, and those can be very costly. However, in this case, we have this mediator variable of skill or skillfulness. And what the skill does is that for the same cooperative and costly behavior, for instance, of hunting a big animal, the more skillful hunter has less of a risk and thus less of a cost for the same kind of cooperativeness. This is a bit more complicated because the benefit function in the model simply assumes that there's this one-to-one relationship between cooperativeness and the benefit. And this is much more complicated in reality. So what we're looking for is a relationship or a kind of translation from a cooperative act into the benefit of an agent, ultimately its reproductive success. And we do this within the framework of costly signaling. And we assume that a cooperative act is translated through a medium. So that could be the display of the hunted meat, or storytelling or gossiping, translated into the benefit of an agent, the reputation of an agent, and then this reputation increases the reproductive success of an agent.
We have an behavior, a pro-social behavior. For example, the killing of a great animal, or someone who is very brave in a conflict with other groups or so. And then on the other hand, this agent should reproduce better, right? And these are, how is this connected? Huh? And we assume that an action is placed in a certain on a certain place and in a certain time. It's an event, and the reproduction should be something that goes on for a longer time. So obviously we need a kind of signal or media to transform the information that is about this agent and about his deed, and this must influence in the very end the behavior of others towards this agent, because that he can reproduce better is of course has to do with other behaving differently to him. And we know that agents, for example, that are good hunters, that they have a better chance to reproduce. So how does this actually work? So first we have this action, and we need a kind of technical media that transmits the information of the action to the brains of other people. And then we need a kind of inner transformation. The knowledge of this action must be transformed in an image of the agent. And this image of the agent will then influence how the agent is treated. And of course, also the how is talked about the agent. So people talk about the agent, and this will change the belief of other people in the group about what the agent actually is in its essence, and also about that he did a certain action. And gossip will then socialize these image. So the reputation of an agent is a kind. It is a social fact, but it is produced by all the images in the heads of the members. But this image will be interchanged between they talk about the agent, and so all the images will be very similar. And this is why we can speak about reputation. Yeah? Reputation is an abstract term, and is only the sum of all the images in the brains of the member of the group. So the main idea is that people learn about the action of an agent, and they transform this knowledge of a past action of the agent into an image of the agent, or they change the image they have. And this effect is very strong when the action is unexpected. So if somebody who is you consider a very moralistic person, and they are always very nice, and you think they are really good, a very good person, and then you hear about this person that he has or she has done something really terrible, then you really change the idea of the person. And the same would be true the other way around. If you think that somebody is really an asshole and is very egoistic, and then you find that he did or she did a very altruistic act that you didn't expect, then you change the image of this person. And this image, what is interesting is that this image, we think of this image as the essence of the person. We believe this is what really matters. And this is this kind of moral agency, that this is the core of a human being. So religious people, for example, ask, what is our essence? And to children they explain, you can lose your hand, but you will still be the person you are, because you are a good person and you do the right things, and you make the right decision, the right moral decision. So we really think of this moral agency as the essence of others, and also also when we think about ourselves. So our self-respect depends on what we have done, and when we think about something we did which was very bad, then our self-respect would decrease. So, and the values are now the rules under which this transformation is done, and they can be very different in different configuration, in different social configurations. So, for example, if somebody would insult someone on a university campus in the West, and the other person would almost kill the other person, then this would be considered as very bad, and maybe the person is crazy or has some problems, some psychological problems, or is just a very primitive and comes from is just a very bad person. But if you have the same behavior in a prison in Colombia or whatever in South America, then this would be the standard reaction. And if you would not hurt the person that insults you, you would lose the respect of all other people. So this shows that this transformation can be really depends on the values you have. So in one case, the same action can be transformed in different images. In one image would be, yeah, this guy is crazy, and in the other is that he is a pussy, right? So and that everybody can just hurt him and he will get hit by everybody. So this is to show that the values are the translation rules, how the knowledge of an action is transformed into an image. And they are generative in the sense that they generate these different images. They are able to generate these images. And so what is really interesting in here is that this ability to transform the knowledge of a past action into an image is universal in all societies, and everybody can do this. And that the values are a product of socialization, of the values of your society.